Good morning. My name is Belinda. Welcome to Belinda's Baubles, Episode 3, and welcome to the green room. If you don't know why we're in a green room, it's because my craft room that I was putting together in order to start this podcast, our son moved home and he decided that was the room he wanted. I'll put a picture in here of what this podcast was supposed to look like as far as the settings. But all is good. It's kind of comforting to be in this room because this room was his room the majority of his life, including this was his nursery. And whenever we built or I painted his nursery, I painted it with all primary colors. Each wall was a different color, and this wall was still green. If you see any of my shorts, you'll see that I am having a little bit of fun with the fact that I do have a natural green screen. And so I can have a bit of fun with my editing software. So that's just a little extra fun for me. I am a crafter. I knit and crochet. And I also do a little bit of sewing, but that sewing stresses me out. So it's not something I usually do. And I also do a little bit of cross stitch. So this podcast will be mainly about knitting and crochet and my journey there, but it can be pretty much anything. I also have a lot of out and abouts that are going on, including the yarn crawl that I participated in, and some more information that'll be coming at the end of the podcast on what's coming up soon. All right, so let's get in with what's going on now. Where you can find me is listed down below. I am listed under Belinda's Baubles in most of those locations, such as Instagram, Ravelry, email is belindasbaubles.com, and also a Ko-fi account. You can find me at any of those places. And again, the links will be down below. Also, links for most of everything that I'll be talking about will be down below, including my Ravelry pages. My Ravelry pages for different projects that I'm working on or have finished. I try to keep those updated, but I do have one item which I cast on without even starting a Ravelry page, which is unusual for me because that's my brain. All right, so let's get started with finished objects. I participated in the Dodgy Bag Make-Along with Allie from Little Drops of Wonderful, and I had a great time. This is the time whenever I do the majority of my sewing. So that's when you'll pretty much see all the sewing. There might be something thrown in from time to time, but it's unusual. And so let me grab these. Sorry for the crinkling because I have something squirreled away in one of the bags. And I'm already using one. Okay. We'll start with the one that has a project in it already and isn't quite fully done. I still have a patch to sew on. So what I have done here is, it's a box bottom bag, and I have gone out, and my husband loves to go to estate sales. And so I'll go to them with him from time to time, and I have been finding a lot of needlework that people, on the last day, it's just going, there's stains on it usually, or maybe some issues, and people just don't recognize all the hard work that went into it. So I have been repurposing a lot of this so that I can use it in my everyday life. Along with, these were jeans, these Calvin Klein jeans. They were from either the late 80s or early 90s. And my leg can't get in them, let alone the rest of my body anymore. I did follow one of Allie's YouTube tutorials on box bottom bags. And I do have the link down below for you. And this is actually my favorite size bag now. Mainly because I can fold it over. I put a little tag in there in case I want to attach any stitch markers to it or anything along those lines, or I use these as purses, so it may have my keys on it. But whenever you fold it over, it makes a really good yarn bowl for your project. All right, so I'm just going to go through these bags rather quickly because of the fact that there are quite a few. This is the majority of my sewing, I told you, so that's just what I've been mainly doing. All right, so this one is a Christmas in July bag. Gnomes, along with a gnome stitch marker. I'll have to look up where I got that one. And I use snaps for the closure because I've run out of cord, and Christmas lights on the inside. This is just a little sock size bag with handle. Okay. Then I made a fall bag, pretty much same thing. Sunflower stitch marker or progress keeper attached to it already. Again with the snaps, these are so easy to use, and whenever you don't have enough drawstrings, I'm just kind of using what I have. And this was yarn that, both the Christmas yarn and the fall yarn is stuff that I picked up at After Season last year and had set aside for when this happened. Okay, now this one here is my vacation souvenir that I made myself. In January this year, let me start there. This year is my husband and my 25th anniversary in August. And so we're having a few different trips and doing things that were on our bucket list. One of the things on the bucket list was to go to Alaska and to see the Northern Lights. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see the Northern Lights. It was too cloudy and snowy while we were there, but it was a wonderful, wonderful trip. Stayed with my sister and her husband and family, and we just had a great time in Anchorage. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that at the end of this episode with what's coming up. But on the way, we stopped in Seattle and had a layover for about 5-6 hours. And friends of ours lived there. They came and picked us up at the airport, and so we got a quick tour of Seattle. And then I got this patch that I added on for Anchorage and Alaska. So there's the Seattle and the Anchorage. And the moose is a whole other story. We'll deal with that later too. And then, no, this is not a Christmas bag, but yes, it does have Christmas lights lining. And the whole reason for that is in Anchorage, because of the fact that it is so dark so long, they leave their Christmas lights up until May when it starts getting really bright. And since this was travel, I had made some stitch markers that all had to do with travel. Let's see if I can get them up there to you a little bit better. Oops, sorry. But they all have to do with travel. And I made those from some charms that I got at Hobby Lobby. Again with the snaps, box bottom. And this one is large enough to where I can do the fold over, and with the double fabric it will make a bowl. Okay, this is my Christmas in July bag, which has all these beautiful flowers, but it has this great farm Christmas theme, and the inside is lined with a pair of old pants from the 80s. I'm trying to utilize what I have. And I even used the drawstring from the pants for the drawstring for the bag. Inside here right now is my project that I'll be doing during Christmas in July mini episodes. Want a sneak peek? Sorry for all the crinkling, but it's all these great minis. I think about 95% of them are going to be from Charming You, along with a gray Cascade Heritage. And whoop, I'm going to get that off to the side so the crinkling will stop, and get my brain going over here. What I'm going to be making with that is the litmus cowl. I already have one litmus cowl, and that is the item. If you see any of my pictures on Instagram, you'll find pretty much all winter I wore the litmus cowl. It is the most worn item that I own, that I have made. And so I want another one. This one's going to be in all bright colors, and I'm just going to have a bunch of fun with it. So, yes, I do have my brain over there. I have my show notes here so I can try to stay on track. And back to the bags. Okay, this was the first bag I made. This is probably one of my favorite bags that I made. And I'm trying not to just jump things in it all completely, but I already have something planned that I want to put in it. All right, so this is my Paris bag. This is fabric, and this charm I got for $1 at a estate sale. I also picked up this handmade doily there also, or actually it was a tea towel, and there were some issues with it, but I was able to get this gorgeous basket, and I figured baskets of flour, Paris, that's what I am imagining it's all about. More than likely, I've been to the Eiffel Tower in Vegas, but I don't really expect to ever make it to Paris, France, but I may make it to Paris, Texas someday. Again, with the size to where I can have my bowl. I don't know how many of you do this also, but I have pretty much stopped carrying a purse. I don't even know if I own a purse anymore. But my project bags are my purses. They go to work with me, they go to the store with me. That way I am never without some little something that I can work on anytime I have time, and I'm never bored because I have something to do. Okay, so other finished objects I have was that for Mother's Day, my husband got me a Centro 48 needle knitting machine. I've never messed with a knitting machine before, and I kept seeing these. I'm like, okay, I've got all this acrylic yarn put away, and I'm not really using it anymore because what I was using it for was when I had my Etsy shop, which is where Belinda's Baubles name came from. Originally, I was making crochet jewelry. It never sold, and then when my husband went on disability and we lost our business, I was selling hats on Etsy, and they went crazy. They were crocheted hats with cross-stitch names on them and different teams and themes and everything, and those went like hotcakes. But because of that, I had tons of leftover acrylic yarn, and I'm like, what am I going to do with this? I don't really work with it as much anymore, unless I was going to make a scrappy baby blanket or something like that. But I'm just not, I'm having more fun with either natural fibers or just different things. And I'm not using the older acrylics as much, but I don't want them to just sit there. So I figured, hey, I can do something with it. So with this knitting machine, I have started experimenting with it, making hats that I can either gift or donate. And they're all different sizes. This I actually still have is, I love this yarn, Neons. Surprisingly, because I wrapped the ball around this. That's the only reason I still have it. And it is an orange neon. And I'm just, you know, doing simple, doubled up. There's, you know, they're not perfect. Don't even remember what this one was. This was, I had more of this yarn, so I made a longer one with a big cuff on it. but it's putting all of that old acrylic yarn to use. And then I decided I would get a little fancier with it, and I made, I had this beautiful yarn that I got on clearance years and years ago at Hobby Lobby, and it was a bamboo silk and just felt so soft, and it worked on this knitting machine. So what I ended up doing was, I closed my notes here, sorry. I just decided to make a tube. And my mom had been asking, she loves my litmus cow. She's had it on her shoulders whenever she's visiting before and when we traveled. And I haven't had a chance to make one for her because it does take me a while to make them. So I'm like, okay, let's try this. Let's see what I can do and how much yarn I have. And so I'd made my sister a hat years ago with this yarn, and I had all the rest of this left over. So I'm like, okay, let's just see how far we can get. So I'll put a picture up here, or one of these sides, of my mom wearing her cowl shawl for Mother's Day. And it is just so soft. It just puts the right amount of warmth on her shoulders, and she loved it. You can tell by the grin. But that's my other finished object. And I have just one other finished object. Again, it's something I don't have with me, but I am going to figure out my sides and put a picture up here of, I'd shown you before the perfect newborn socks. And they are by Tabitha Gandy. And I'll put a link below again for any of this stuff. So I'm going to stop saying that. But this Perfect Newborn Socks by Tabitha Gandy, it's a free pattern. And this is the second pair I've made. The first pair, I'd used a different heel, and they were too tight after a while, much too soon. So this time I went with the pattern as written. And they fit this little guy's feet. And so whenever she's done with them, she's going to give them back to me so that I can put a little I-cord on them, and she'll be able to hang them up on the Christmas tree. Okay, I've gotten tired of whips. For some reason, that word is just getting to me. It kind of depresses me because everybody's talking about I have too many whips, too much going on. I have noticed that I am definitely in this phase where I am casting on or hooking on tons of things. And instead of using the word whips, I decided let's kind of put it between two different categories. So I'm going to have new construction, and in a bit we're going to talk about in the works. But new construction, there's a lot going on there. I did get done with a few things in the last few months, so that's part of why I've added more on, but not really. It's just because I wanted these things. Okay, so I put these in order so that I could grab them easily. And this is a bag that was a birthday present, I believe, from my mom, Donna. She makes gorgeous bags. This one is lined in the bottom, and it's where I got the idea of doing the yarn bowls, because since she has the bottom lined, it just sits there so wonderfully. But all of the bags I'll be showing today were either made by her or myself. I don't happen to be using any of my other bags at the moment. So the Sandpiper tank is by Aubrey P. Busick. I'm sorry if I said the name wrong. I'm hoping I got close. It is a free pattern, and it is made or was on Universal Yarn's website. And so whenever I bought this yarn, this is what I on the yarn crawl. This was something I was planning on using it for. So I'm using the Cotton Supreme Waves. And this is color 901, which is Strawberry Swirl. And I'm using 3 skeins. I'm on skein number 2, making the body. Now this pattern I have, I am doing it a little bit different. And love my little peach. Most of the stitch markers that I use the most are either made by Charmed and Dangerous, which is this is one, or Simply Serving, and you can find those online. And my needle stoppers, which I've started using, and I'll show you the others. Those are new ones, and I'll talk about them in a bit. But anyways, back to this tank. This is the body, and I have a little tag down here, mainly because I had the bright idea that, you know, this was supposed to be done in pieces, and I did not have the headspace or the desire to do it in pieces. I'm doing, it's not because I really did not want to do pearls, because I am doing pearls because it is a rib. But I didn't want to have to figure out which row I was on. There was a lot of stress that's been going on lately, and so my head just hasn't been wrapping around, and I've been doing simpler patterns at the moment. So I decided that I was going to figure out how to do this in the round. Well, when I did it in the round, my stitch count didn't quite match up because it was stitch count for flat. So I ended up with this area at first that was a wider rib and didn't match up with the others. So what I decided to do partway up, and I decided I also was not going to rip back. So I was just going to, this is for me. I'm fine with it. I'm just going to keep going. And I'm like, you know, I have those little handmade tag things, and I'll just put one of them on it. Hide it. And then it blends right in and looks like it's supposed to be that way. Sorry, my nose is itching. So I'm still on the body. I have a little ways more to go before I get into the upper portion. But the pattern also, since it was for this yarn, it shows, because you're using it in panels, it had a much wider stripe. And I really like these stripes. I'm sorry if you can hear my stomach. There it went. Oops. Okay. I did have breakfast this morning. So, and this is just, this cotton is so soft. It doesn't give me any grief with my hands or anything that some cottons do. And so I really love working with it. So that's ongoing, and I am hoping to have that ready for when I go to the beach next month. All right, so next is the Gentle Armor socks. These are by Natalia Christensen. She is a Ukrainian designer, and I was using this to as an entry into the I'll have to put the name here because I can't quite remember all of the initials and all of the name, but it was a Walk with Ukraine make-along doing socks, and it was put together by 3 different podcasters, My Yarny Corner, Stitches and Jacks, and Crafty Clegs. And they did a great job with it. I had a wonderful time. The Perfect Baby socks were one of my entries because they fit in with the blue and gold. And I did get them on my toe, so that counted. But this is the Gentle Armor. I'm showing you the picture mainly because what I've done does not do it justice. This is a gorgeous pattern. I really like it, and I am going to be coming back to it. But again, stress happened, and I could not, for the life of me, follow the pattern good, because I just couldn't. So, this part up here, it just doesn't look right to me. It might look better after I block it, but excuse me a moment. Sorry about that. I felt like I needed to sneeze. But anyways, I use, to keep myself in place and know where I am, I use a row counter. And the row counters that I use are just the old, these were the baseball counters that we used. And so I've just gotten a bunch of those, put one in each of my project bags, and I keep track of where I am. But even with that, I was not keeping track well of where I was in the pattern. This is a paid for pattern, so I won't go into details, but I've not done this justice. I really haven't. And I thought I was not going to be able to complete the sock just because of my own personal stress level. And I wanted to complete the sock. But because of foot issues I have, I always have to wear shoes. And so the socks that I wear, they're not seen except in the shoe. So I'll show you a picture here of me wearing it. So this actually will not be seen, only the design up here will be seen. And the yarns that I used, I organized this and I forgot what I was doing, is the Mary Maxim Sweet Feet. I'd show you the ball band, but it's in bad shape. And here it is all skeined up. And it's striping down here in the toes, but up here it's a little bit more solid. And for me, socks do not have to be matchy-matchy. I'm good with sisters or cousins or whatever. But I wanted this to be in the gray because Natalia describes the reason behind this design, and it's basically an armor for them in the Ukraine, and to wrap its arms around those in war-torn countries. And so I thought that was so beautiful, so I wanted the armor to be the silver. So that is one that for right now, it's not going to be frogged. I'm not going to give up on it or anything. I will complete it, and I am planning on making another sock with this pattern later on once my head gets there. The other foot may be a total cousin and not a sister, and it may have the pattern all the way down. I don't know. These are just for me, so whatever. Okay, so I'm also using this Cascade yarn. Oh, and I didn't even tell you the color. I am sorry. Okay, so it's Cascade Heritage, and it's color 5660. I think it came up as either silver or something along those lines whenever you put it in. But I'm using that in another sock, so I'll show that to you again in just a moment. And then next I have the Scrappy Granny Tee. This is one of my bags whenever I first started sewing project bags. Doesn't even have a box bottom or anything. It's just simple, some quilted material in the middle, and just some fun knitting and crochet motifs. Okay, so this is a free pattern It's put out by Daisy Farm Crafts, and it is the Crochet Striped Mesh Stitch Blanket by Tiffany Brown. And I am using Premier Wool Select, and I am striping it in 3 colors. See when you can see that best. Yeah, that's a little bit better. And so I'm following the pattern. And this Wool Select is 75% acrylic, 25% wool. It's a DK, and you get 273 yards, so it's a light DK. And the colors are Cadet, which is the gray, blush, and vanilla. Premier had these on sale recently during the summer, so I don't know if they still are or not. So up here at the top, we've got vanilla, cadet, and blush. And tell me, am I the last one to know this? I saw this on somebody else. To keep from losing, instead of just pulling a big loop out, in order to stop from losing your stitches whenever you're putting your project down, just put a progress keeper in there. This is just one from the yarn crawl that I collected, and it stays there. Okay, and I've been crocheting for 40 plus years. And am I the last one to know this? Let me know if I've just been missing out all these years. Okay, then next is what I've been spending way too much time on and having way too much fun with, but I am participating in a crochet along with On the Lamb Yarn Shop in Grapevine, Texas. I'll put information about the shop down below, and they also have just started a podcast, and you should go take a look. It is a lot of fun. I'll link that there too. But this is the Scrappy Granny Tee by Emily Marie Davies, and it is brand new. She just released this, and I am having a lot of fun getting all of these colors out. It's just not, oh, you can't even see, it's too dark in there. Okay, yeah, you're not going to see in there, so I'll put a picture up here of all of the different balls whenever I was getting ready. And I am using a G hook. The blanket, I'm sorry, I'm using an H. And this is what I have done so far. I'm working through my second row of repeats, and I just love it. Everything that I'm using is either minis or, see if I can get, don't want my underarms in there, but okay. Everything is either minis or scraps that I'm using. And you can look over on my Ravelry page for a list of the dyers that are included in here. But I've done all of that, trying not to pick things up. And I don't know that I have ever before done a crochet project in all the years that was in sock yarn. I've always used DK, worsted weight, bulky, but I've never used sock yarn. So this is a new adventure for me. But watch this space. It's going to keep going, and I have some plans for it for the future that are going to be kind of fun, hopefully. All right, then I have my last new construction. I told you I've been going a little berserk, and if you look on Ravelry at my queue, I think I have 17 projects in the queue, and I am really trying not to cast all of them on, but I know I'm going to cast at least 1 or 2, maybe 3 of them on in the next month before we talk again on here in a podcast or in an episode. Okay, this was my birthday present from my mom, Donna, and it says handmade with love. And she made this so that I can have it on my arm, have a pair of socks in it, and can just walk and knit. And I actually was doing that last night on my walk with Seaver in the evening. I even tried to record a bit of it. So if you look over on my Worldwide Knit in Public little out and about minisode, you will see at the end Seaver and I on our walk. But what you will see is us coming back to get the camera after I had so professionally and so exactingly set it up, started us around the corner, walked towards it, walked around it, and walked away and around the corner. It was going to look so cool. Then I went back and looked at it last night, and I did not click record when we started the walk. I clicked record on my remote on the phone when we were going back to pick it up, when I thought I was turning it off. Oh well. So you get a little outtake there at the end. Okay, so Sam, I have only ever made DK socks. And Sam is my husband. Seems to be a common name for me because I have, there was a Sam that went on Yarn Crawl with me, and then I'll be talking about the Dyer Sam with Beachy Breeze. So this Sam is for my husband Sam, and he had been asking me for a pair of socks that was not so thick as the DK socks. He's got a big foot. It's not huge like some of these other people are talking about for their husband, but it's twice the length of mine, basically. So I didn't really want to make him sock yarn socks, but I am. And so what I am using here is, this is some yarn that I, get the light on there good. There we go. You see the stripes? There we go. That's better. I got this on Yarn Crawl a couple of years ago. It's put out by Universal Yarn, and it's Wisdom Yarns Saki Silk. And it is very soft. And this is 55% fine merino superwash wool, 25% nylon, and 20% silk. And how much is in there? Made in Turkey. Okay, it comes. It's 100 grams, and you get 440 yards. It is super fine. And I started the sock because I'm trying to figure out just his sizing with a vanilla yarn or vanilla sock, and I used just for the cuffs because 100 grams does not get him a full sock without having to add on to it for the cuff, toes, and heel. And I'm using just again this Heritage in color 5660 again. And so that's gotten me started, and that's my on the go as I'm running around knitting, and it works out really well as far as my speed didn't go down too much whenever I was, and I'm a thrower, if that bothers you. But I was able to keep my speed up pretty good and just keep moving and not trip while going on my walk last night. Okay, so that's going to be going with me again quite a bit. And that is it, believe it or not, for new construction. Now I do want to have a section here called In the Works. These are projects that you've already seen that I did make some progress on, which is hard to believe that I made progress on anything because I've been so busy starting everything else. But here I have, this is what I call my heritage bag. And it is a Dodgy Bag along from last year. This is my heritage bag is what I'm calling this because it has my Texas fabric at the top with my boots. If I didn't say below, I live in the Fort Worth, Texas area. And this down below is my Scottish heritage, which is the Clark family tartan. So this is here, the Antique Flora by Wool and Pine. This is my first color work project, and it's going to be my Christmas sweater. I'm doing the make along with it, again with Allie with Little Drops of Wonderful. She's doing a Christmas sweater, just fun, encourage each other all along the year to get a color work sweater done. And here in Texas, from year to year, some years I can wear a sweater, some years I'm in a t-shirt at Christmas time. So I wanted something that I could use after Christmas if I wanted to. All right, so last time I showed you, I was working my way through the color work on the body, and I'm double checking to make sure I don't lose my needles. And now I was starting to add the last color, I believe. I am excited to say, I've lost my yarn down below, I have finished the body color work. And I am absolutely loving this design. And these, I'm not going to go through all the different yarns that I'm using. Some of them are from dyers that are no longer in business, but you can look on my Ravelry page that's linked down below to see them all. So now I am at straight knitting for the body, and I love how this pattern works because after I get tired of all that straight knitting, then I'll come back, pick up the stitches, and I still have color work to do on the arm, straight knitting on the arm, color work to do on the arm, straight knitting on the arm. So it kind of breaks it up. So, because right now, since I'm not able to concentrate, I can do the bottom. But while I'm trying to get a couple of summer t-shirts and tanks done, this is going to kind of go on the back burner. Sorry, dropped yarn. And so I'm trying to put it aside and not go chasing it. Okay, so that was the only thing else that I had started before that I did not finish and is still in the works. But like I said, with the heat and everything, we're just now, I'm thankful. I am very thankful that so far we've not really got into the hundreds. It is coming this week. And last summer we spent most of the summer in over 100 degree Fahrenheit weather. And so far in May and June, that hasn't happened. So I am thankful for that. And it is actually cooling off at night, which was not happening last year. So I'm hoping this stays to make this a little bit more bearable summer. But anyways, working with a large project that's mostly wool, or is actually all wool, it's not happening, at least not until probably September. So that goes to the side. So you may not see it for a while. Okay, so let's see if with editing I can keep this at about an hour or under. So next I have confessions. So due to some of my recent out and abouts, and I'll link those videos down below, I did get to go in May to Madeline Tosh's headquarters here in Fort Worth. And I do have a pink Madeline Tosh bag, because part of my Mother's Day, I didn't get any flowers for Mother's Day. I got yarn, and I got yarn stuff. And so whenever, I'm trying not to make a lot of noise, but I'm sorry, there is going to be a little crinkling right here. And I have things that are not Madeline Tosh in here also. Here we go. All right, let's set that down. Going to their Mad May pop-up. I got to go to the headquarters. I got to do a tour, and I've got some little episodes and shorts that have information about all of that. So I won't go into everything here. Suffice it to say, it was a lot of fun. I had a great time, and I look forward to do that again. But I got a couple of little Madeline Tosh stitch markers. And they have on here, remember to look up at the stars, a quote from Stephen Hawking, and down at your yarn, a quote from Mad Tosh. And then I have a pin of the Mad Tosh mobile, which I got to see that a couple of years ago. It's sometimes, okay, excuse me one moment. Okay, I'm back. I am dropping everything. It's driving me crazy. Okay, it sometimes pays to be in Mad Tosh's hometown. So all the local yarn shops have their colors. A lot of them carry some great yarns from Mad Tosh, and it's hometown for me. So looky what I have here. Okay, so I have here in Tosh sock. This is a one-of-a-kind, which one-of-a-kinds, you may see it looking similar to another yarn that they have. One-of-a-kinds are basically ones that something on it did not quite match up to the recipe, and so it becomes a one-of-a-kind. It's not because there's anything wrong with it. It's just it did not go through their inspection stage as being perfect. Then I have another one-of-a-kind, and this one is on Euro sock. And I love all of these sparkles. And I love seeing where sparkles are, not sparkles, but speckles. Sorry, speckles. I love seeing where the speckles are made in the speckle station at Madeline Tosh. Something that surprised me is that all of these yarns are dyed up in pans 2 at a time, just as if they were in someone's home and someone was dyeing them at home as a dyer. So these are all hand dyed, done in small batches. And this one is TML Triple Twist 100% superwash merino wool. It's only 130 yards, so it is a much thicker worsted weight yarn. And again, it's one of a kind, but it's just all this bright yellow-green neon. And I'm looking, I was going to make a hat for Sam with it, but he's telling me, yeah, highlighter here. He's telling me, he wouldn't wear it. So instead of making something he wouldn't wear, I'm going to make some covers for his golf clubs with it. But that's for future days. Maybe in a few years he'll get it. Never know. Okay, so also yesterday was Worldwide Knit in Public Day, and so I went to On the Lamb for their part of their Knit in Public event, which happened to coincide with the end of my work shift because I work on most Saturdays. And there she had Beachy Breeze, which is Sam is a dyer out of Connecticut. And so I got to meet her, see all of her beautiful stuff, and yes, I did come home with a couple of her yarns. And I am doing a theme here. It actually matched the top that I was wearing. It was pointed out to me yesterday. So I'm like, okay, yeah, I am kind of following along a line. Yeah, that would go with it. I did go a little outside with these, but oh well. Okay, so Beachy Breeze fiber. And this is in the colorway Protostar and Boardwalk DK. 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, and 25% nylon. And this is actually for socks will stripe. So I'm excited for that. And then this is in her Boardwalk sock, 75% merino, 25% nylon. And this is Peeping Pansies. And I don't know if you can see, we've got some green speckles in there, along with the purple variegated. And this will be going with this. This is Marisol Inca. Which is 64% viscose, 36% baby alpaca. And it is so soft and so shiny. And these are going to be going together for me to be able to make, okay, menopause and memory and brains, it happens. Okay, so this is something that is in my queue. So I will be dipping into my queue projects. I'll be making the rocket tee, striping it. And this alpaca is basically superfine mohair type. So that's what I'm going to be using it for. Okay. I have a couple more things over here. I'm just going to go through them really quickly because my husband, of course, got into the Temu. I don't know how many of you have fallen down that rabbit hole, but I decided to get some milk silk or milk cotton. And this is all for me to be able to try out making some dishcloths with it, because I really do like, and I've got some scrubby stuff, so I'm going to make some scrubby dishcloths out of it. And then I had some fun at Hobby Lobby. And it's harder and harder for me to find my favorite crochet hooks. These just fit my hand. They're long enough. A lot of the ergonomic crochet hooks will hit me right here and cause a sore spot. I already have trouble with crocheting, even though that is my first love when it comes to fiber, because it causes a lot of swelling and hand difficulty, probably because I'm a thrower, but you know, I've been throwing for 45 plus years. It's not likely to change anytime soon. Old dog here. And so these are the Yarnology luxury crochet hooks. And since it's harder to find these, and I don't know if they're doing away with them, I decided to go ahead and grab me some more. I mean, they're $1.99. They are plastic, but they fit my hand so well. And I have all sorts of other crochet hooks, and these are the ones that I go back to again and again. Get one out here. Yeah. I mean, this one it's an H. I've replaced it 3 times, but it fits, and it doesn't hit me in the wrong place on my hand. Okay. I also have been seeing a few other YouTubers that have been talking about needle stoppers, and I'm getting paranoid, especially with the color work project, that I would lose stitches. So I decided to try these out. They are with Yarnology. Again, they were $2.79. And I have the bee and beehive point protectors and the mushroom, which you saw a few minutes ago, and gnome. And so these are just, they're too cute. Should line them up here. Oh, nope, won't show. Okay, too low. And then we got the bees. Along with the beehive. 2 of each of all these. Okay. So, that's it for me. That's pretty much everything I've done. So just to tell you a little bit about what's coming up, I will be participating in Christmas in July, but the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to do the Christmas in July in shorts. As far as short videos, YouTube shorts, and on Instagram. That way I can post it in both places. And also it'll be a little bit easier because we are going on a family vacation in July, so I can also take you along with me. What I had also planned when I wanted to start this YouTube channel, I had been recording things ahead of time that I just need to edit to get them up, and I was planning on using in my Christmas in July. Some of it is Christmas lights from July. Some of it is travel videos from whenever we went to Anchorage, Alaska, and to Seattle. And so I will be sharing those with you also as part of the Christmas in July. Also, there'll be some out and abouts, because while we are traveling to Myrtle Beach, which I plan on checking out the yarn shop that's down by the beach there in Myrtle Beach, we'll also be stopping at Arkansas Yarn Company, and I'll get to see the actual shop, and I will share that with you. We're also going into the visit family in the Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina for a couple of days, and so I'll also share you with that with you a bit too. So I will also be having, because next month is also my birthday month, I'm going to have a birthday pattern giveaway. So in order to be eligible for the birthday pattern giveaway, you need to tell me happy birthday on my next episode. So that's coming up on episode 4. So I will be uploading an actual episode along with doing my Christmas in July. So that'll be totally separate, because I know not everyone likes to look at the shorts. You want to be able to sit and get something done while you're doing while you're watching, if you're anything like me. So on my next episode, I will be giving you all the details on it. But keep coming back, keep seeing what's going on, and thank you so much for joining me, and especially thank you so much if you made it all the way to the end of this video, for coming to my green room.